time for the main event.
Hey everybody, welcome to Get Indie Gaming and to our review of Hades across PC and the Nintendo Switch. Now it's no secret, we love our roguelites. We have done for years and have spoken at lengths before about how passionate we are about this particular genre. Unlike many though, it's not precisely the difficulty usually associated with these kind of games that keeps us playing them. Sure, it plays a part with the challenge of progression bringing some of the motivation, although over the past few years that's become less of a thing we're really interested in. Long-time viewers will recognise this, as particularly over the last 12 to 18 months, our coverage has shifted consistently towards more narrative and story-driven titles. We're still excited and driven by action-adventure games, and as such, don't get me wrong, although as times change, well, so have our tastes. To be honest, we slept on the initial launch of Hades a week or so ago as this video goes out, which was a huge mistake, and having spent the best part of 24 or so hours with it across the Nintendo Switch and PC, Hades does everything it does so well. It's one of the best and most enjoyable and most entertaining indie games ever made. It puts everything developer Supergiant Games is good at, having previously shown us all in Pyre, Bastion and Transistor, within a hugely compelling overall package. The game, well, it nearly has it all. The narrative, art style, voice acting, music. It's got heaps upon heaps of atmosphere. And at no point in the past week's 24 hours of playtime did we ever come across anything what we might describe as being boring or grindy, which for this genre, as much as we like it, is one heck of a rarity. The premise here is relatively simple. You play through Hades as Zagreus, the son of Hades, the god of the underworld from ancient Greek mythology, in what Zagreus hopes is a journey to freedom of the mortal world, all within a roguelite dungeon crawler. With each death, of which there are many, particularly at the start before you've been able to level up your character, players are taken back to the House of Hades, and it's here, all within the gaps between the runs, where Hades makes its first mark and stands above so many within the genre. Ultimately, many such games are somewhat one-dimensional in terms of the overall story and how the narrative is delivered, but not here in Hades. The first part of this we want to draw upon is how the game progresses with each and seemingly every death and failed run, with the mechanic being used to further draw out the story. Upon returning home, the characters you find hanging around the place, such as Achilles, Nyx and of course Hades himself, will greet and give praise on your recent successes or gloat on your failures.
Ha! Megra the Fury got you again! She is unstoppable, isn't she? One time, I tried to stop her on the way to have a chat with your dad, and she didn't even turn her head.
You see, in Hades, well, death is needed to help things progress, and it's a beautiful twist which allows players, well, to keep playing as you want to not only see what the characters have to say of your most recent escape run, but also finding out more about the story and goings-on within the Over and the Underworld.
Keep at it, lad. I've known great men throughout my life, and I can always tell when someone's better than their circumstances. Fight like I'd fight out there.
I'll give them hell as you once did, Achilles. Though doubtless many of the shades who stand against me first arrived in Tartarus because of you.
Naturally enough, to go too deeply into these stories would be too much in the way of spoilers, although it feels safe enough to mention they are persistent as you play and continue to be during the endgame. The same is true for another highlight of what makes Hades such a unique roguelite. As you play and engage with the different characters and gods, you form relationships with them that ebb and flow over the duration. Here you're also able to give characters gifts from items you find in your journey, which in so doing can see you being rewarded.
Lord Dionysus, it's been great getting to know you, so please accept this humble offering.
Now that is something, a right princely gift there, Zach, and just so happens I got something here I have been meaning to give you.
Thank you, Dionysus, mate.
All of this works almost in a similar way to some of the dating simulators we've played over the years, and again, all of this is such a great credit to the team of writers. As a Greek mythology nerd of sorts, seeing these characters jump out on the screen, mostly with their traditional personalities depicted so finely, and yet again without cliché, is truly sublime. Alongside all of this comes an exceptionally high quality voice work. There's more than 20,000 lines of dialogue, Most of the voices, rather interestingly, have that kind of British twang, which kind of really works.
Greetings there, young man. Look, your father's always been rather difficult, and he has not so much as called in quite some time.
And certainly feels in keeping with the actors from the Saturday afternoon matinee films depicting Greek mythology we would have watched on BBC One or ITV when growing up in the UK in the early 80s or early 90s.
Zeus, my godly husband, did you for some reason order the profanation of my temple in Thessaly?
As the central character, Zagorus, his role and dialogue, like everything else, is supremely written. He could have been, and in keeping with the Britishness of the accents, well, an absolute and utter arse. He could have been a pompous and entitled frat boy type of lad with a generic, let's call them anger issues, and yet there's none of that here. He feels, well, really somewhat likeable, and yet again, to go on about the Britishness of parts of this game, his humour feels dry and witty, with the banter between him and his father, Hades, having just enough play and friction between the two of them.
Who's that snivelling shade to your immediate left there, Father? Already found someone new to do the busy work, and here I thought I was utterly indispensable.
That shade, boy, is my newly designated contractor, one whose responsibility is to work on this house. Though who shall pay for everything my subjects here demand, I do not know.
You're trying to guilt me into funding the exorbitant furnishings you desire.
Perhaps once we are finished with repairs for all the carnage you have sown throughout my realm, then we might finally have time for all the needed renovations that have piled up.
You know, each would probably quite happily tell the other to go forth and multiply, although again, each of them clearly know, well, that just wouldn't be the done thing to do. You might need to be British to get that little point, so if so, let's quickly move on to the other thing great roguelikes need, and that's a great combat system. On that, Hades certainly doesn't disappoint. While you only have a light attack, a massive attack, a ranged cast, the real hidden gem of moves within Hades comes from the dash, which on its own and in combination with the other abilities can open up some gratifying gameplay. As for the weaponry on offer, there are 6 different items to play with. You start off with a blade, which is decent enough, and as you progress, you're able to unlock new items such as a Captain America kinda shield, a bow, something that's almost a straight-up gun with grenade launcher, although our personal favourite, well, that has to be a lance, which really played to our long game stay away from trouble mindset. What's more, unlike, let's say Dead Cells, the combat in Hades feels accessible right from the very start. You're not weak and feeble at the onset, and can make a reasonably good go of clearing the first handful of rooms before you begin to buy upgrades from back at the House of Hades between runs, or within the run itself by way of Charon's shop that pops up from time to time. Here you're able to pick up temporary skill uplifts and additional health. Another delicate little touch also comes from being able to spend the gems you're able to collect from the underworld back at your base, with them providing upgrades not only to your home, but also to additional rooms and items that can be used to help in your escape. In a further nod to accessibility and for players who want to focus on the story and still make progress, the developers have implemented what's called a God mode. Activated by way of a checkbox in the settings menu, it's best to think of this as offering Zagorus the ability to become stronger and more resilient. God mode begins by reducing the damage you take by 20%, with each run after that further reducing the damage by 2%, until you hit a maximum of 80% reduction. While we haven't yet made use of this option, it's something we certainly welcome, whereby the game's not using its difficulty as a content gate, and we're sure this will appeal to many who want the full story and narrative experience, but aren't able or don't want the full force of the standard level of combat. What's also super pleasing, the God mode doesn't lock you out of any content, so you're able to play this with the mode turned on and not miss out on anything. Don't worry though, players who want an even harder mode, well, there's something for you. Hell mode dials up the difficulty with numerous modifiers, and to be honest, well, that's something we're quite happy to leave nicely alone. One of the other things we think which makes Hades an even more compelling play is its honesty and fairness. It just feels so fair to play, where you die not through in what happens to be old, let's say bad luck, something that happened time and time in, let's say again, Dead Cells. Rather, you die in Hades because you probably made a mistake. Now this is something that's quite hard to explain, although it also helps make this game so fun. While we adore it, we have quit and walked away from Dead Cells on numerous occasions due to the perception of this unfairness. This just hasn't happened yet in Hades, and while we have seen the credits roll, we've kept gameplay from outside of the first area off this review to avoid spoilers. There's still plenty of things we can do, and we suspect plenty more story yet to come. Hades is brilliant. It's an essential play for anyone who likes their roguelites and narrative games, or anyone, well, who really likes independent video games. For everything Hades does, it does so very well. Our only criticism? Well, let's say on the Switch, it doesn't play out so well in handheld, and that really benefits from the big screen, and yep, that's honestly all we have to fault for it. To us, and with the usual caveats of personal choice and subjectivity, Hades is the finest indie game we've ever played. We play-tested Hades on both PC and Nintendo Switch, with both platforms performing as well as each other. We purchased both PC and Switch variants from the Nintendo eShop and Steam, and we did not receive a free copy from the publisher or developer on either platform. So have you or will you be playing Hades? Let us know what you think of the game, this review, and if you want more of these, please click the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel with the notifications turned on. Either way, many thanks for watching, and we'll see you all here again next time on Get Indie Gaming.